Don't tell Twitter, but the Cardinals are 30 games over 500, which kind of means they're not that terrible after all. Fifth time's the charm, eh? Hey everybody, I'm Tara Wellman, and this is Birdseas. So the Cardinals finally eclipsed that 30 games over 500 mark. It took them a few tries, which maybe isn't that surprising considering how much trouble they've had driving in runs as of late, unless your name is Matt Carpenter or Randal Grichuk, but we'll get to that in a minute. Seriously though, 30 games over 500 at the beginning of August, I mean, not a bad mark to hit. Let's talk about Randal Grichuk for a minute. This is a guy that many people, many good baseball people, thought should start the year in Memphis just to continue his development. We saw flashes of his brilliance last year and a tendency for Mike Matheny to trust a young guy, which was a little bit strange for the Mike Matheny way. But Randal Grichuk quickly became a name that a lot of Cardinals fans were talking about as a player of the future. Well, we all know he made the opening day roster, and in the absence of some of the big bats for the Cardinals, he has made himself a player of the present, and in a very big way. He stepped up in the absence of Matt Holliday, took advantage of that extra playing time, and is making himself not only a name known in the Cardinals world, but also in the national conversation for things like Rookie of the Year. Rookie of the Year, meaning he is being compared to guys like Kris Bryant, Matt Duffy, Jock Peterson, the guys who we all kind of expected to be at the top of that rookie class this year. Randal Grichuk maybe didn't start out in that same conversation, but the fact is he's playing some pretty good ball right now, and since the All-Star break in 17 games, he has 21 hits, which is second on the team to Jason Hayward, 4 doubles, a triple, 6 home runs, which is tied for first with Carpenters since the break, leads the team with 14 RBI, has 5 walks, which those walks are not easy to come by for Randal Grichuk, and yes, 24 strikeouts. He's hitting the ball well. He's not hitting it maybe as consistently as you would like, but even that is getting better and better as we go along. Randal Grichuk is hitting .318 since the break, but he's slugging .682, and that leads me to what I think is the most compelling argument for Randal Grichuk at this point. Yes, he still strikes out a lot, but that power comes pretty consistently. He has 74 hits on the year. 54% of those hits are extra base hits. That's what's made him so successful and so productive in the Cardinals lineup, and that's a number that compares pretty directly and in some cases even oversteps those other guys in the Rookie of the Year conversation. Matt Duffy, 30% extra base hits. Kris Bryant, 39% extra base hits. Jock Peterson, 49% extra base hits. Yes, I know there are many more numbers and many more ways of determining which one of these guys is having the best season, but I say all of that to say Randal Grichuk has put himself in that conversation by doing some pretty incredible things. He doesn't necessarily do it all consistently, but putting up those kinds of power numbers, that's going to get you noticed. It's also going to hopefully get you moved out of the 8th spot in the order. Ah, the great lineup debate. There is perhaps no quicker way to get a bunch of Cardinals fans all riled up than to simply post the lineup online. Upwards of 85 different versions of a lineup have been used by Mike Matheny this season. Jason Hayward, who has transformed himself into arguably the best hitter on the team, #SignHayward, has hit everywhere but 9th. I don't know, maybe try it, see what happens. And Kolten Wong has seen 1st, 3rd, and 8th, all in the same week. There's a lot of inconsistency going on there, and I'm all for playing to the matchups, but maybe this isn't the best solution down the stretch. After a pretty terrible 2-month slump, Matt Carpenter returned to a place of comfort in the leadoff spot. It simplified his approach, it simplified his role, it defined what his objective was at the plate. He settled in, and ta-da, he's back. Now, he says the spot in the lineup isn't what changed things, but he does acknowledge that he's comfortable there, and it feels like he knows his role, he's good at doing it, so it kind of sounds like simplifying things worked for him. Might the same kind of consistency in job description benefit a guy like Kolten Wong? So what might this mystical, consistent lineup actually look like? Well, Carpenter's at 1, and he's going to stay there for the rest of forever. Hayward and Peralta sit nicely at 3 and 4. Maybe Grichuk fits in at 5. I'm sorry, Yadi, I love you, but you're a singles hitter right now, and that's fine at 7 or 8, not 5 or 6. There's still some flexibility there for Mike Matheny to make some decisions, play some matchups, but if you're going to go the same way on a fairly consistent basis, you gotta decide who's gonna hit second. And that leads us to the cast question. Last week I asked y'all who should hit second for the Cardinals, and the votes are in. The winner is, by a slim margin, Colton Wong with 32% to Stephen Piscotty's 30%, with a write-in vote for Matt Holliday. Do you know something I don't know, or did you not understand the question? I'm just kidding. Don't anybody get mad at me for that. Holliday at second isn't the craziest thing I've ever heard, and in fact, I've talked about that, but like not now, because he's injured and not playing, so. The funny thing is, I actually voted for Piscotty in my own cast question, but as the week progressed, I kind of drifted back toward liking Colton Wong in that spot. I just like his pop there and what he has shown himself capable of doing in kind of igniting an offense early. And then Piscotty, who has shown a level of consistency at the big league level, well, maybe he could kind of break up the strikeout parade in the second half of the lineup. But the thing is, you can argue it both ways, and that might be Mike Matheny's problem. If he's anything like me, which I've made the case before that that's probably true, he can talk himself into or out of just about anything with the same kind of logic. But here's the thing, Mike, it's August. The guys that are injured. Stop thinking about them. Play with the guys that you have and allow them to develop into the roles that will make you successful now and hopefully all the way through October. Start with some consistency in the lineup, and maybe you'll get some consistency in production as well. We can't do a show about the St. Louis Cardinals and not talk pitching because, let's face it, that's the real reason this team is 30 games over 500. They are setting historic marks with their pitching stats this year. In fact, since 1969, the start of the divisional era, through 108 games, this Cardinals staff is tied for the third best ERA at 2.63 with the 1972 A's. This team is putting itself into some of those really historic conversations, which is remarkable considering they're doing it without Adam Wainwright, with two guys they weren't really sure what they were going to get out of, and a guy they weren't sure they were going to get at all. Throw in all of the spot starts you've had to get from guys like Tim Cooney and Tyler Lyons, and the fact that this team has a sub-3 ERA as a unit is pretty remarkable. With all that pitching, it was interesting to see at the trade deadline, John Mozeliak went out and got more pitching. But it makes a lot more sense when you hear some of the comments that he made this week, talking about how he knows what Mike Matheny's strategy is going to be in using those bullpen arms, and kind of reading between the lines, you can see that what he's saying is, Mike's not going to go to the rookie in a one-run game. So let's build a bullpen with former closers that we know can support that strategy. Maness, Segrist, and Choate for the Cardinals have the most relief appearances in all of baseball. The loss of Walden and Belisle did all kinds of damage to the structure of that bullpen. So if this team is going to win on the back of their pitching staff, finding a couple of guys to bridge the gap while Walden and Belisle are kind of on pause in their recovery was a huge get by John Mozeliak. There's a lot of baseball left, don't get me wrong. In fact, the Pirates come to town in just a few days with a chance to cut into the Cardinals' division lead. But it's time for guys like John Mozeliak to start thinking of this club as a playoff contender. Sure, winning 100 games in the regular season would be cool, but it means nothing if you can't back it up with a title. So while a lot of these moves may not be flashy in the moment, if they can help this team not only sustain their success down the stretch, but prepare themselves to be a playoff team, then that's John Mozeliak doing his job, not just for now, but for a month or two from now as well. Oh, one other thing. There was also some talk this week about how Mike Matheny pitches Trevor Rosenthal only in save situations because of his contract. Now, first of all, Mike doesn't write up that contract, so let's not go too hard on him for that. But second, Can someone check this contract? Because I feel like there might actually be a clause in there somewhere about giving all Cardinals fans everywhere heart attacks in the 9th inning. And if we could just change that that'd be great. All right, guys. Well, the Cardinals are finishing up their current road trip with a stop in Milwaukee, and then they will head home for another long stretch of games that includes the Pittsburgh Pirates. We'll talk about all of that and more next time on Birdseeds.